Oh, yeah, recording. Just in case. So welcome everybody on the chat. Please feel free to drop in the chat like where you're connecting from, your name. Hey Diana, how are you? It's been a long time since we talked, right? It's been like 30 minutes or something. So it's going to be today a great webinar. I coming as coming from the technical side. This is going to be fairly interested. I'm no what Jose and the team are doing in Glassity is very interesting for helping on joining like the FinOps perspective into engineering. So it's going to be a bit more different of what we normally do in terms of the format and stuff. So it's going to be fun. Yeah, we'll of course there will be a recording. We'll share with you with all the guests and with all the people that had joined, and we'll send it over when we finish the meeting. I'm not sure if it's going to be probably it's going to be tomorrow or during the weekend. You will get it available. Okay, so I see more people joining, so let's give it like a couple more minutes and then we can start. Hey Diana, how are you? Looking forward to you enjoying the event today. So I think more. Um, hey Tony, yeah. Okay, so Jose, maybe while we wait for more people to join, maybe you can start, with a brief presentation of yourself, and you can start also with the talk.
Super. Then let's do that. While the people finish to join. Well, I'm Ernesto. I'm engineer like for the past 20 years, doing FinOps since 2019 approx, and now founder of Glassity with my co-founder Julia, and we are trying to build like different FinOps, focusing in some aspects that we are going to talk today. And well, happy to be here. Happy to share this space with you, Victor, as well. It's super interesting, no? This voice that you bring into the community, and we can all be in the same room discussing like these topics, no? That we like. Then, if you want, I can just share my screen and start.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Uh, mhm. Let me go. You see my screen, right?
Yep.
Okay, because I have like million of little widgets that are from from the Zoom, just to be clear. Okay, then here we are. No one get lost. We want to close today the gap between discovering things, FinOps insights, and the action. No, make things happen. That this is something that we are quite obsessed with. No, let me talk a little bit first about the problem. What we believe that is the problem. No, the problem today is like we have like big set of tools like giving us visibility. I got this the other day from a tweet that I found like very convenient. I don't know if the numbers are real or not, but that's true that there is people spending a lot of money in FinOps, and well, and the waste is still there. No, how we see the problem for us, this is we name it like the bottom up problem. What we believe is like we have like a lot of alerts, a lot of insights, very good tools like giving us information, but this information comes from, let's say, the infrastructure from all these items that we have deploying in our cloud or in our clouds, and these go up generating, for me, the most important thing, noise. This is something that I see like very often. We get like 200 alerts about volumes, for example. No ownership. The ownership is not something that we get directly from the alert. Usually the ownership is something that we aggregate later when we are able to identify the items that they are affected by the alert. Of course, there is no alignment because it's just notification. No one was aligned before. In this bottom-up problem, what we create is like visibility, but not action, not outcomes, and what ends up is like with us being in a firefighting mode. No, and the problem is even bigger because at the end, for solving all the problems that some of the problems that I mentioned before, well, you start with the tagging strategy, and then you need this tagging in order to be able to do like cost allocation. And you need to have like cost allocation in order to be able to do a proper showback. And without that, you cannot do like forecasting, budgeting. At the end, this is a domino effect that is based in the practice and keeps most of the team spending 90% of the energy in organizing all this stuff, leaving like very small amount of capacity available for the actual optimization. No, then with that, we can comment a little bit what was the origin idea of all this that we are doing ourselves. And the origin idea is like, why if we set up the process first, no? What we want is to stop buying tools and start a repeatable optimization engine, like having a process in place that allow us to do these things. For me, something that I repeat a lot is like, for me, FinOps is not a technical problem. This is a change management problem. It's a problem where it's people involved and it's not just technical. So we need to keep more things in consideration, no? And why, if we follow some of the frameworks available, for example, ITIL, in order to drive the process? No, we can get some extracts of the framework and see how we can drive the change management through the organization with concepts with ITIM, no, like asset management or service management structures that help us to define better how we want to do things. And our approach actually is this one. We name it like top-down approach. We don't go from, as I mentioned before, no, from the infrastructure up. No, we do the opposite. We start by the top, defining a correct service catalog. For me, this is key because at the moment that you have your services well defined, in every service you always have as an owner. Then you start to solve the problem of the ownership. And then when you define services and you allocate resources inside the services, you already have like a discovery in place. You start to have allocation, and then following, we like this sponsor agile target framework in order to name how to drive actions inside the organization. With that, we can have like a service-driven approach that the most important is reduce the noise. No, we receive alerts based on services, not in resources. No, I guess this is the initial phase that we have starting from the business. And when you set up that, later everything follows naturally. No, this is the base of what we name our 5 steps for cloud optimization. Let me explain a little bit, like very quick, for if someone didn't read about that. Basically, we structure our optimization process in 5 steps that keeps a continuous optimization cycle that ensure maximum efficacy. How we do that? First, we have the discovery phase. I will go later in detail where we want to collect ideas. We want to have a backlog of things that we want to discover. Then these ideas need to be assessed and we need to choose them. We need to rank by risk, effort, value. We need to align with the rest of stakeholders. And then when we choose this idea, then we have the alignment inside the organization. This is a critical phase. This is a step where the people usually skip this alignment. Then when you arrive to the execution, you don't arrive like in the optimal conditions. So we do the alignment, we need a correct alignment, the execution should flow like very easy. And then for closing, we have to learn and celebrate. What we want is like learn lessons about what we did in this execution for feed again our initial discovery and then celebrate. Celebrate, we will talk about it. I think it's also like very important. Then This is very abstract. How we bring this into reality. This is a mockup that describes quite well how we do in the product, what you will see inside. But as you see, you have a process that is clear. You go to left, to right. You know that always you need to keep the things until they are complete. And as you see, we avoid noise. What we have is like cards where we group all the information. Because when we are going into Graviton, we don't want to go one specific instance into Graviton. No, we want to see what is the Graviton strategy for the organization. No, or if we need to clean volumes or whatever other optimization is better have like a clear picture, what is the value, who is affected, etc. before to compete. But well, instead going directly on all this theory, I guess it's always better like having a case, no? Then I prepare like a little story about one specific case that will guide us how we think that every organization can do that without talking about tooling, just about process. And of course, this process will mimic what we try to offer, no, in our product itself. Then the thing is like every optimization always start with someone asking, no, what if, no, ideas. This is what we need to do. And these ideas should come from a backlog. These ideas come from different places. We can have instant alerts, we can have anomalies, we can have like tools from the vendors, different ideas that come from the FinOps committee or from the CCOE. And then what we want is to fill a backlog of things that we want to do next. But doesn't mean that we are going to do all of them. Okay, we just collect them in the first phase. This is what we name the discovery. All the stakeholders have visibility of the discovery, and with this discovery, what we do next is like assess. From these ideas, we need to choose one. We need to have like criteria for being able to choose these ideas. Usually the things that we need to choose will be based in the risk. No, it's very important to understand the risk of committing some idea or what is the effort that we need to do, because sometimes for the value of the opportunity and the effort that is required doesn't make sense. We will want to go probably always starting with long hanging fruits, low effort, high value, and keep evolving, no, during the time. Then on this story, I get like a very typical one, no, right sizing. This is something that probably everybody went through. And how will be this process of right sizing? We already choose this idea. We were in the phase 2, and then we go in the phase 3. What means the phase 3? The phase 3 means when already this idea is sponsored, we need to talk with our agents that they are going to help us to drive this idea across the organization. Then, following the schema that I said before, when we got the specific item that we want to execute, we need to align this item with the different stakeholders. Different stakeholders, what came by the services. As we mentioned, we can have different services in our service catalog. I described here like very typical ones. No, for example, here we have GPU training instances and people from platform building Terraform modules like BDIs, no, for workspaces, different kind of teams. And every team we have an owner with name and family name that we can address to. Not a team, not a generic email address, like someone is the owner. No? And when we send this plan to these owners, these plans follow the same objective, but they look completely different. For example, a resizing is not the same a resizing for GPU instances that a resize for a backend server, no? For example. But in platform, probably what they want to do is like update the modules, no? Or in the desktop, maybe they want to play a little bit like how small they can get these VMs, or if they need to power on or power off. Maybe other ideas can came from here, no? Then, as you see, we can send to all of them in this alignment phase what is the plan, what we want to do, and then with this plan, fill in the alignment. What is inside this plan? Well, first, clear plan, because what we want to do is like remove any kind of uncertainty. This is something that I discuss with a lot of people in meetings. This is probably the bigger blocker when an engineer receive a task or a service owner receive a task. Uncertainties. No, this brings fears. it's a human thing, this can block the process. No, we need to have a risk analysis. We need to have very clear what is the outcome. Very simple steps. With that, approve. And with that, we have an alignment. Alignment doesn't mean that everybody is going to say yes. Alignment is like we're going to get a positive or negative answer, and we will know who will do and who will not. On this example for right sizing, here it's okay, no? Two individuals, the two teams in this case, that have concerns. There is issues where they cannot move forward with this right sizing. This is clear as well. When we do this alignment, we can get this negative response and we can get the rejection, but the rejection doesn't mean that we're failing. Basically, this is a valuable signal that can help us to do it again, to ensure that we do better plan next time, or address actually what is the concerns before moving forward. Then all this is about the step 3. Okay, we were talking about the alignment. Now we have our alignment in place. When we align, we go to the next step. This is execution. Execution is when the things happen, no? And for me, execution, I take it like very personal because I've been in this side like a lot of years, so many years. And I remember at the beginning of FinOps, it always was no this conversation. It's like, look, we are here making this platform like being reliable. We need to deliver features fast. We need to keep our users with a good experience. Some of the requests that were arriving to us were against these principles. That's the thing. Like in the organization, different profiles may have like different goals. No, all of them pursue the same goal. No, excel probably. No, in whatever you are doing, but it's very important in this execution phase for make the things happen, reduce these uncertainties, ensure that we have a clear plan, and ensure that engineering have everything what is needed to not get stuck here, trying to move fast and finish the optimization. On this case, with this pull request, I with this specific case of the right sizing, here we provide what we think that is like the mother of the remediations. I mean, we believe that remediate issues in FinOps always via pull request is a very good idea. No, and why is a good idea? Because we have one artifact, okay, that is a pull request that is bringing like multiple benefits. For me, one of the mains is like we have this change management in place. We can ensure when it's going to happen. There is a review. We also have this traceability of what has been done. We have infrastructure as code, of course, is important. Well, it's different. That doesn't need to be Terraform. Can be also Pulumi, can be CloudFormation, can be whatever you are using to define your infrastructure. But the pull request remediation for us is an artifact that gives us like very, very good quantities. But before going on this, I went to a very specific case like this right sizing. Let's go with another example. For example, I can draw again. And with that, we repeat it, we come here, and let's get one case that I think is very interesting. It happened with one customer of ours recently. And in this case, we discover an opportunity also in an Amazon account where changing the strategy that we have, like with the CloudWatch, we can save around $500,000 a year. Okay, this is the opportunity. Here we have like a big win on a it draw like very bad with mouse. We have a very win here, but the effort was really high. No, then how we do that? Then we discover the opportunity. Here we have changing CloudWatch strategy. This will help us to save $500,000. Stakeholders are happy. We choose the idea. Let's go next. What happened next? What happened next is like we are not talking about 5 teams on this case. On this case, we are talking about hundreds of teams affected. On this case, they are publishing some gaming applications on the internet, and every of them need to change the login strategy that they have in the application. For doing that is very useful when we have a tool that automates that process, and we can trade individually all of these alignments with the owners. No, Then we go through the ownership, we receive the alignment response. In the alignment response, we can actually start to detect cases that depends of other alignments or cases where we cannot move forward. We can evaluate what's going on. And then with this CloudWatch thingy, and then it's a very simple change in the login on these applications. And we open like hundreds of these pull requests, one for every application. Then when this happen, as you can understand, we get like full traceability, rollback procedures. We can be safe of executing this. Then these guys usually are also hype, and then we can came with the completion of the execution. No, we have this process in place. We receive all the optimization, and then we can measure what are the savings. No, this is the end of the execution phase. It's really important to follow the steps to arrive here, because this is when the things happen. But execution is not the end. Execution is not the end, because this can be worked like one time, but we want to keep this doing like systematically, as we say. And this is for us like the fourth step. The fifth step, and it's really important, is like feedback loop and celebration. Feedback loop, basically what we want to do here is understanding kind of for the people that is an infrastructure, kind of a postmortem after an incident. We want to identify what are the drivers, blocker, results, contributors, and the most important, lessons learned. Lessons learned is what is going to help us to close the loop. In the lessons learned, after closing optimization that affects like thousands of people or hundreds, like this case, we can have like a brief. For that, we have tools nowadays that help us very much on doing this briefing, and we can get like new ideas. For example, why we schedule new VDIs, or for example, if we are working about budgeting, why if we don't create a new dashboard for the Power BI people, or different ideas that will fill the backlog again and will keep us our optimization running. Here is where happen most of these things of the shift left, because on these ideas we can start to put like preventive ideas. We can ensure that we can apply ideas on optimizations even before they are deployed, no, at the beginning of the life cycle. But feedback loop is important for that, but celebration is also same important, I would say, that is feedback loop. Because in this celebration phase, what we want to do is like keep the success as a driver. We want to acknowledge the people participating on this task to ensure that the things keep going, because everybody requires these rewards, the recognition. For that, we play a little bit with gamification. We create some leaderboards and stuff that helps like keep this ranking, in place, and of course like celebrate. This is very important. This is as we say, this is a human process, and keeping the success as a driver, this is a well-tested driver, and I think it should help like everyone. Next cycle, we can start freezer with more volunteers. This is the components that I think is the secret sauce for keeps the things rolling. Then with that, we can consider ourselves like winners. I can just recap as about this. Let me go a little bit here. What we did here, as we mentioned, we discover we have our backlog of ideas. We assess, we choose one idea. What is the next thing that we want to do? We align, we talk with everyone, we ensure who can, who cannot, what is the reasons, etc., to arrive to the execution, perfect shape, ready to deploy, to get this win. And when we win, we need to learn and celebrate. Very important. Learn, lessons learned, will fit the discovery, celebrate, will keep this will like spinning like faster. And you see, it's a very human process. It's not technical, involves very deep technical inside, but this framework, very simple, I think, can give to everybody an idea that to keep like a continuous implementation cycle without get stalled, no, in the middle of the process. Then for everybody, maybe I can share here. I can share this link in the chat. Here is like some questions that we prepare for everybody can make himself these questions, can review this checklist that we prepare here to ensure how ready he is, no, on this. Let me share it here to everyone. And and well, that's it. This is my presentation and ready to take answers from here.
Yeah, thanks, Ernesto. I think it was great stuff. I think it was, this new format and all what you have shared is great. We have a survey for you guys to fill regarding the talk and the feedback that you want to share. So I'm going to start it now. Um, so we can before we start with the panel, you can fill the question. So you can vote over there. What do you think about the problems that you are seeing? What basically what Ernesto had said. So what are your votes over there? So you can start filling that questionnaire as soon as you can. Well, we start with the panel. I know was a question from Jordi on the chat as well before we start with the panel. Is that if that approach is not similar to, or is it similar to the FinOps as a product one? Ernesto, maybe you can answer that in terms of the approach.
I mean, it's an approach that is similar. At the end, what we are trying to follow with both approaches is ensure that we have like a system in place. I think Finance as a product is a cool approach. We want to name it like that because I think it's more focused not in the whole process of finance. Here we are talking only about the domain of optimization. We are talking only about optimization, and we're not talking about other areas of the FinOps that they are as important. But in optimization is where we identify this gap, no, between discover and make it happen, no, and what is this issues that is happening in the middle, no?
Okay,
Then I
awesome.
mean that's the difference.
Yeah. I know that especially for the approach is more like the life cycle is great, and I think the idea is to make like a fly. The idea of making a flywheel is always working for me. Like it's something that I see very visual. So maybe we can start while people are filling the question with the panel. So I'm going to allow you to unmute yourselves, Zach and Daniel. Let me quickly. Okay, get over there. So maybe I can start with you, Daniel, since you come from the AWS side. So, what's your thoughts on the approach that maybe Ernesto has presented? What is your feedback? What do you see with your customers? Can you shed some light on it?
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree with Ernesto's approach on identifying and then working through the pipeline to implement. Um, I think with my customers that I work with, a lot of the problems we see is they have all of the data, right? The data is not the issue. They understand where the savings is, but it's actually getting people to implement them. So whether that is executive buy-in, automation, or kind of understanding that use like the business case for the engineers, so they know what they're doing and why they're doing it. There's always a different thing to focus on. I'm a big fan of like automating where you can. So like where can we take the decisions away from the engineer so they don't have to think about the 50 other things that they like that are cost related in a way, and they can focus on building their application. So that's something that I try to push, whether it's through native services or third-party tools or just like standardizing build templates so that they can't pick GP2, for example. It's only GP3. There's never a reason to use GP2. So that's just something that you take away from them as a decision to make. So yeah, all the customers have different problems, but I think standardization and automation is a big thing I focus on.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. I think that makes scalability of the anything, but in this case, FinOps to happen. And maybe Zach, do you have any insight because you have you are leading a bigger, let's say, a big company. So how these concepts that Ernesto shared affect like in the big scale and in a case like yours?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I think 100% agree that we're probably in the most data-rich era we've ever been in FinOps, right? We've got all the data we can need. 5 years ago, it's like, let's make reports, let's make dashboards, let's get alerts out. Like we've been doing that for 5 years. So now it's what is the maximum business value of what action we can take? So you need super close alignment with product engineering and executive leadership because every minute you're spending on FinOps means that's time that engineers aren't spending on new features, fixing bugs, rolling out, enhancing the product. So you've got to be sure that the time you're spending on these FinOps activities are worth it and aligned with executives, right? There's no shortage of things to fix. So you don't want to overwhelm people. You want to figure out maybe through a monthly review or a weekly review or quarterly review, what can I get somebody to commit to in a sprint? Can I carve out 10% of your sprint to spend on FinOps activities? And then we'll get alignment with leadership on what are we going to tackle this sprint? Because if you just send somebody just walls of text and alerts and dashboards, they're going to get overwhelmed and they're not going to know what's the biggest bang for my buck with the lowest risk. And you kind of work your way through that list.
Mhm.
So that's very, very accurate. What do you think, Ernesto? You have any?
I mean, fully agree with Zach. You cannot be fixing everything because sometimes it doesn't worth it. There is optimization that most of the time are available, kind of good practices, but the value that they provide and the effort that you require to accomplish them is that don't make any sense to go there unless you can have a big screen with everything green and you want to have this satisfaction that there is no waste, no? But it's okay keeping a minimal waste. What is important here is the value of this waste and also the opportunity value. I guess we didn't mention about it. This is something that we like to signal in the product. It's like we discovered this, but we discovered this like 6 months ago. Look, this is what you're accumulating. I guess this triggers, no, the sense in some of the teams to move ahead when they start to see how this waste is accumulating inside the organization and alignment, no, with the stakeholders. One of the most common problems that we see when these things arrive is like the bandwidth. There is no bandwidth to do more things. Everybody rushing, teams are getting squeezed because everybody is trying to optimize costs, and sometimes happen, no, that there is no bandwidth. But there is no bandwidth. You have a trick, no, because if you leave everything prepared, if it's just not approve a pull request or not approve it, no, if we automate until the point where someone can review, then what is the waste of time here, no? Then it's very important this alignment and evaluating, no, the opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. Like the cost of opportunity is one of the most hidden costs that you can have, because it's not something that you can measure directly. It's something that you measure afterwards. So it's difficult to track that. And also another thing that it was a question in the chat is that, how do you track the saving realization? So like when business is growing at the same time, how do you track that the savings that you are making are getting realized and it's not something that is evolving? So do you guys have any advice for Aviade who did the question?
I have an answer here. I don't
Yeah,
know
yeah,
if
yeah. Go
it's
ahead,
too
go ahead,
late
go ahead.
to answer, but I guess everybody will agree here. Watching the gross optimization with the gross consumption don't make any sense because you are seeing a big box with everything is there. The only way to track that is going to unitary cost. At the moment that you have like your P&L of every of the services, when you see how much the transaction cost is, then is when you know you're saving or you're not saving. And it's very difficult from the highest perspective, take in consideration all these unitary costs. This is something that requires like every owner of every service take care of it. And this is what they need to follow. No, I want that my transaction costs go from $2 to 150 or whatever objective they want to push. Because if not, there is no way. And we have this case, we're based in Estonia. Here we are full of very successful startups, no? Like Skype, TransferWise, Fold, etc. And we have that customers that they are like growing exponentially, and you need to explain them how they are already saving money. no? And this is very difficult when every 3 months you are like increasing like 40% in the user base, no? Mm.
Yeah, it definitely has to be relative because otherwise the gross margin for, especially for startups or someone that has done it, it's very difficult to track. Like, okay, I'm saving, but I'm spending like 10 times more in 1 year because I grow like 20 times.
Yeah, I
So
think
maybe,
Exactly.
yeah, Daniel, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think there's like you need context when you're showing a savings number, right?
Hmm.
Because a past example I have is like we had a ton of data in cold storage, and our unit cost was continuing to go down because we're moving a lot of data into cold storage. This was good. We deleted a bunch of the cold storage data, saved a bunch of money because it was not used, and our unit costs went up because we didn't have as much data sitting in cold storage. So when our leadership looked at our KPI for unit like S3 unit costs, they saw that was going up, and they're like, "Why is our unit cost going up on S3?" Well, the reason is because we had a bunch of unused data that we didn't need anymore, and now we have more data that is hot storage. So that's a good thing. So I think a lot of it is this context that you have when you're saying this is a savings and why is it a savings and what we did, as opposed to here are some numbers, like figure out yourself if it's good or bad.
Yeah, definitely. I
Mm,
think
good point.
we're moving to an area that where we already started with the, as you mentioned, with the data. We now know that the data without anything, like without any context or without any relative measure or any comparison doesn't mean anything. Like it's a number, it can be, I don't know, apples or cost or whatever.
Yeah.
You need to give some context as well. And wanted to ask a more specific like question. I'm thinking about like when we talk about automation and all of that, there is a part that we always think about, S3, compute, all of this. But there is also like, I see one of the biggest cost saving drivers and one of the most complex things, which is like RIs and SPs, the reserve instances, the savings plans, all of that. That when you are able to automate, to predict, to play around, there are tools that have been built around it even. So, what do you think is the role of automation, especially in RIs and SPs? Maybe Zach, that you can shine us some light about how automation helps the management of commitments in companies for FinOps.
Oh, good question. I'm probably going to give you an answer you don't love, and I think that automation is great, but automation lacks business context, right? If automate the data shows you, hey, go purchase some reserved instances, but the database team plans on shutting those down in 3 months. Automation doesn't have that context, doesn't have your knowledge. So if you give automation full fettered access to go buy and resell, it lacks that business context. So you're going to incur waste because the automation doesn't have the business context. So I think automation for a lot of other things is great when you don't need business context, but things like saving plan, reserve instances are super heavily context and roadmap based. So if you're lacking that, your automation can make decisions that will get you in trouble down the line. So it may not be the answer you were looking for. So I think automation is great, but I think especially in larger organizations, you can really do some damage letting automation run hog wild without business context, knowledge, or guardrails and constraints.
I really like your answer, and it's for me it's perfect. Like, give me all the floor for saying what I'm doing on this space, because actually we are working in automation for collecting that context. This is where we show the value because we have this autopilot that we can manage instances. No, we can convert instances from one kind to another or recommends good purchases. But as you say, what matters is like knowing every of these things. What are the plans? What is going to happen? Do you plan a modernization? Do you plan change the stack? Do you plan not to change anything? Then in the way that we are doing that, our platform is an agentic platform, and for that, LLMs are perfect. At the moment we have all the services identified, you can just launch a contest and ask everybody. And this is something that today is like really difficult because how you do it by emails, you prepare a form, you oblige the people to fill this form. You don't have like really this information, this contextual information. Then we drive that in a natural language format. Every owner received these questions, and all these questions later aggregated, and this information is used for performing the purchases. No, at the end, this is like some of the constraints that you need to bring to your algorithm. No, probably a MALP algorithm, or some greedy approach, or whatever approach that you are using for make the purchase recommendations. But for me, the most important is automate this context. No, of, for example, same case for service onboarding. No, when you bring a new service, the service onboarding is important. What is this service about? Is customer facing? Is an internal service? Is a production service, etc. No, I think this is a really good answer, Doug, and I fully agree. I mean, context is super important in cases like that. Mm.
Daniel, do you want to add something from your experience in the in the background of dealing with probably
Yeah,
with
no,
RIs and SPs?
yeah, no, I fully agree with Zach, to be honest. So previously to AWS, I was at Capital One for 12 years, leading the FinOps program over there.
Hmm.
So I think when you think of AI and RIs and SPs, I think coming up with all the different recommendations and giving it context to what is your risk window, what is your coverage, that target that you're looking for, and maybe gathering that information. But I'm not the biggest fan of letting it run wild and make pre-purchases at large scales for me. I'm not seeing too much of that with my customers today, but I know there's a lot of different tools out there that people are playing around with.
Okay, that's great. And moving on from the RIs to another topic. So let's say that let's put this case that I'm thinking of. It's like, let's say we are a startup, and that's probably one of the, most of the users of the cloud, and then they have, like, let's say, a 90 days. They are in an issue with the cost. They are saying, like, okay, let's do and that, and they are heavily into, like, they are, let's say, a SaaS provider. So there is a lot of consumption in the compute, storage, and maybe some AI services. What would be, your 90-day, like, challenge, or your 90-day framework that you would put to this SaaS startup to in order to regulate or organize their costs? So maybe you can start, Ernesto, with maybe applying the framework that you show us. So let's say there is pure chaos. Imagine a startup like yours, but more chaotic in a SaaS environment, and they are trying to get control of the cost. How would you apply the framework that you show us to that environment?
I mean, most of the things will happen in the alignment phase, no? Because the discovery, probably they will be aware. They have like multiple tools, no, to doing that. They will be aware what are the things that they need to optimize. And in this assessment part, I will just order higher value, less effort, and let's start from there. No, long hanging fruits. What is the thing that costs nothing and is going to give us money? Probably volumes. Volume we don't need even to ask. We can do it from the background. Well, probably when you have infrastructure code for avoiding drifts and such, you need to do it like better. No, but there is things that you can do. Rate optimization. Rate optimization is clear. Nothing is going to be disrupted. Do you plan to close the business the next year? No, right? Then don't run anything on demand. Then these kind of things, value from more to less, and this will keep driving the wheel. It depends on the case of this startup, no? But in some cases, if they never did anything, and mostly in a startup that grow without control, usually this goes uh, higher number, no, that the average cloud waste that the reports say, most cases.
Yeah,
Mm.
I fully agree that that would be like a very accurate situation, and all
Mm.
that it will be very interesting. Maybe, like, Daniel, what do you see in the customers that maybe reach out to you about, okay, we are having this problem, we are wasting too much, or we are spending too much. How we can deal with that? Let's say in a SaaS situation, a startup situation. How would you deal with that?
Yeah, so I think like there's three things that come to mind, and one is like understanding where the costs are coming from. So just making sure you have good tagging practices in place, and making sure you have an understanding of who owns what if you're a customer. Because you could tag all the things, but if you don't have an actual owner to those things and giving them visibility into what their costs are and what the budget is, then that's going to be an issue. And then, like Ernesto said, like pre-purchasing, if you're going to continue to grow, like not running anything on demand where you can, is going to be the easiest thing and the most bang for your buck. And then the third thing I would say, like utilize like the free services and the free tooling that the cloud providers have to give you data, right? A lot of people maybe think that we don't have all of the data, but there's a lot of free services across all the providers that give you really good insights and areas to focus on. And then you can kind of find that value wheel of like, all right, where is the next thing that we should focus on? Because it's saying that, hey, this is my biggest area of opportunity. These are the changes I need to make, and then start working through the teams to kind of implement. So that would be my
Oh,
three main takeaways.
that's three very good steps. And trying to dive into another topic that someone asked in the chat is the AI, of course, is now going to be one of the major cost drivers these days. So maybe I can start with Zach. How are you seeing like in the org AI cost and related to tying them to cost to business value, because we are seeing a lot of debate on the AI initiatives being worth it or not. So how are you being able to tie the AI cost into the business value, and how it's if you are starting to seeing that in the practice?
Yeah, so
No.
I think every company struggles with like what's the real business value of AI, and I think we're in this space now with AI, and it's certainly going to change in the future. Is a lot of people haven't been able to figure out what is the real business value. What's my ROI? My customers are demanding it in my product. I think we're in this stage, like early cloud stages, where we haven't figured all that out yet. We're not so worried about cost yet. We're just worried about, can I get it into my product because that's what the market's demanding? Can I figure out what's the real ROI, and can I figure out how to make, everybody more efficient in our company? And I think once we figure those things out, we're really as a industry going to really start to attack, how do I run AI cheaper, faster, better? Maybe it's model steering, maybe it's making big agreements with some of the bigger providers in the space. Maybe it's making a deal with your cloud service provider and part of your PPA or something that you're going to do committed spend on AI. But we're not there yet, in my opinion. I think we're still trying to figure all that out. Yes, it can help developers, write code. It can do content generation on automated PRs, but we haven't really figured all that out yet. So I think, in my opinion, we're still so early in that AI maturity stage where we're still trying to figure out what the business value is. And I think once we do that, then we can figure out how to optimize the costs. Yeah, because if you're just solely worried about the cost of AI, you're going to lose market share. You're going to lose the race to adding AI to your product.
No, that's a really
Opportunity.
good answer. What do you say? What do you say, Ernesto?
I mean, in my case, I can go instead like advising, I can go like as a user, no, how we did it, because we start to build the product like almost 3 years ago. From the beginning, was AI oriented because we really believed that LLMs were perfect to translate that human language to computer language and vice versa. Then what we did from the beginning to ensure that is ensure that we can always measure, because this is the way to start to do things, and ensure that these metrics go into the specific parts of the product that we want. Then we use AI, for example, when we generate the opportunity to being able to frame the opportunity for the specific case of the person that is reading on this specific infrastructure with the numbers they need, no? Then this specific action, it go metrics, we know how many tokens they consume, what is the model that we use, and what is the price. And this goes actually directly to the to our system, actually to the focus that we generate for our bills. It appears like one line, this opportunity, no? The same one conversation, what is the cost of one specific conversation that is generating code? Or what is the cost of creating a pull request for this kind of repository or this other kind of repository, no? That sometimes the pull request is super easy for example, a right sizing, but some others are more complex. For example, like changing the login system. Then, for me, the rule will be start by measuring. No, uh, consider that you should have this service catalog, and you should have in the service these measures. No, to understand how is going your unit economics, and the rest you will figure out, because as Zach says here, the most important is not if you are going to put AI or not, because since that there is only one answer, and even I not fully agree with that, no? You still can do great things without AI. But it's about opportunity, no? You need to go fast. Cost will come later. Some opportunities were different and will not take it like that, but the big players will go after the opportunity because they want to do business.
Yeah,
Mm.
definitely. I totally agree. And also, I've thought about like you what you were saying is like you, especially like the FinOps tools, and have like a this inception moment where they are using AI to build their tool, and then they are measuring how AI is impacting other tools, so you can get what you learn from analyzing your own tool to the rest. So it's probably like double effort, and then it's the same effort, and then you get double the results because you can help yourself and your customer is probably something that happens also in AWS, right, Daniel? Like you are checking how the AI consumption is going and then how you can help the customers reduce their AI consumption costs, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. Like we're building our own tools on the back end to look at a bunch of data, provide insights, and then help our customers can use that data. And then again, like you said, to use the data to optimize their AI infrastructure. But I agree with both of you around like there's not enough KPIs around like how the the LLM or AIs or whatever they're doing is being used. Like are you deploying faster because you have something to help you write the code? Are customers happier because you have some AI service now on your platform? There isn't these like large scale KPIs to track, and it's kind of just like an open checkbook. And it's like, hey, like we're supposed to be doing this and we have a budget. I hope it works out in the long run. And I think people do need to focus more on specific KPIs to track to validate that the investment was worth it. And then on the flip side of things, like for FinOps teams, like it's going to change how they're thinking of things. Like commitment strategies are going to change, right? Are you doing capacity blocks or training plans with SageMaker or SageMaker savings plans? How does that all work together? Also, model selection, right, is a big cost decision. Inference optimization is a FinOps lever, and like tagging and showback is now even harder, I think, when you put in these AI tools in there. So
Yeah.
it's even more important now to make sure you have that visibility across the board.
Mm.
Yeah. Definitely, and things are getting like, as you guys all mentioned that the evolution of like the AI and being able to measure actually like applying unit economics to AI cost is something that is fairly tricky, especially because of the way that is built and the way that is consumed, and
Yeah,
the amount of ways you can get AI cost because you mentioned like there is the inference, there is the SaaS providers, let's the OpenAIs, the Anthropics, there is the Bedrocks, there is there is multiple ways that then tools like Glassity need to like ingest all that data and unify them and see like okay, this is coming from here, from here, from here, and then it's the unit economics. So what's the total AI cost to make like a pull request? It can go like it's going to be like the AI tool that is checking your PR, and then there is the AI tool that is the client that is building the helping your developer, and then there is the other thing that it's a lot of variables that you need to drive into to in order to make like okay, this is the total final cost and have like proper accountability and visibility to make it happen, right?
yeah,
I mean, you can play with routers, no? And the
Yeah.
routers can include you the cost, no, for these transactions, and then this cost you can put it inside the product, and this will help you know to have this number per
Definitely.
transaction. Mm.
Definitely. So I want to check if there is more questions. I'm going to end up the survey now. And then if there is any other more questions, we can have like a last minute question. Any comments you can drop it in the chat or in the Q&A section. I'm watching. If not, then maybe we can get some fine. Okay, maybe we have some questions here in the chat. Sorry, was okay. In this, okay, yeah. So no more questions in the chat, I think. I think we are almost like 5 minutes, so maybe we can have like some last words. Maybe Ernesto give you maybe a quick roundup. So maybe I can start with Zach, then Daniel, and then Ernesto to end up the meeting. So one last advice to the FinOps people and the engineering people trying to close this gap and trying to get this this feedback going on and this improvement in their FinOps practice so their company goes better. What are your recommendations, Zach?
Think about the question in who you ask. It's a lot easier to convince one CTO or VP of engineering than it is to convince 500 engineers. Don't go to that person and say, you've got a bunch of waste, got a bunch of untagged resources. Go to them and say, there's an opportunity for you to increase your product margin by, let's say, 5%. Here are the levers we need to pull in what order to go get that 5%. Are you interested? 99 times out of 100, they're going to say yes. But if I go to you with a list of 75 optimization recommendations and thousands of untagged resources, they're going to blow you off and ignore you. So think about the way you approach and who you approach. I guarantee you'll get a much different result if you tell them you're going to increase product margin by doing this. If you go, instead of going to them and saying, got all this waste and all these untagged resources, you'll get a much different result. I would guarantee it.
Yeah, that's I think that's a wonderful advice. So the threshold is tough, Daniel. But what's your recommendation?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of standardization, right? Your cyber and security teams have a ton of standards out there that say you have to do it this way because of rules and regulations against the company or the environment you're in. But what's stopping you from having FinOps standards saying that this is the company's stance on GP3 volumes or GP2 volumes or instance modernization? We're not going to allow N-2 instance types or so like anything lower than like an M5 or an M6 to be built. And if you can define those standards, I feel, and take away kind of the 1,000 choices an engineer has and just give them the more efficient platform, that'll kind of really help net new things be built in an efficient way. So standardization is the key.
Yeah, constraints make innovation happen and also help like the governance make easy because you can actually automate that standards
Yeah.
basically with governance with SCPs or any of these governance tool. Okay, so two great recommendations. Ernesto, just to close up, the floor is yours. What's your
Okay.
recommendation?
And my colleagues make it difficult because they talk my two favorites, no? Because I fully agree with Zach. I mean, knowing who is the sponsor of the process is the way to start. Don't go to the target because these guys will help you later. Then standardization, mostly for big teams, like when exist platform teams, is key. And also put governance. Why we are creating like RDS that is not Graviton, what the chance of that or things like this is things that can avoid. But having what I will for trying to give an advice that will help everyone, I will say like have a process, have a system in place, have actually a repeatable, systematic approach to go through it because this will keep you improving the system. Everybody's different. Everybody has his own needs. Then iterating in the same process at the beginning, try to keep as simple as possible because it will become complex later for sure. And this is having a systematic approach, I guess, is the way. And try new things because a lot of new things are appearing. The last 6 months are being crazy. I think that now we are like a lot of new tools in place that can really solve the problem. And well, since we are here, I invite everybody to try what we are offering and see if it works. If it doesn't work, try something else, no? Until you find what matches to you. Mhm.
Definitely. What adapts to each of the company, but you have like a good base to definitely to start. So yeah,
Mhm.
I think that's a great way to end. Thanks everybody for taking the time today. Thank Zach, Danny, and of course Ernesto to be here. I think it was a wonderful set of advice. Definitely, like both in the chat and in the presentation. So we'll be sharing the recording as soon as we have it. And thanks everyone for joining here today, and thanks for voting and participating as always. And see you in the next event that we'll probably announce soon. So thanks everybody, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.
Thanks, Victor. Thanks, Vanessa. See you.
Bye bye. Ciao.